I was wiping the kitchen counter when I heard Lydia's voice float in from the living room, low but sharp enough to cut through the quiet. Mom shouldn't be driving anymore, she said. She's getting slower. The rag slipped from my hand. Slower. As if I couldn't hear. As if I wasn't standing just 10 steps away, breathing the same air. Mark murmured something back, something I couldn't catch. Lydia sighed. I'm just trying to protect her. And us. One mistake, and everything falls on me. She spoke like I was a burden she had carried too long. My fingers tightened on the edge of the counter. I had driven for 58 years. Rain, snow, late-night hospital runs, work shifts, and family emergencies. I took them to school, to appointments, to state parks on summer weekends. And now, I was a liability? I forced a smile and stepped into the room. Tea's ready, I said softly. Lydia didn't even look up from her phone. Mark cleared his throat politely. The silence in the room felt like a wall I wasn't allowed to touch. I sat slowly in my chair, watching Lydia scroll with that familiar distracted frown. Mom, can we talk? She finally asked without lifting her eyes. It's just, you're 72. Maybe it's time to let driving go. My heart squeezed. Lydia, I'm fine. I passed my last test. She shrugged. Tests aren't everything. I opened my mouth, then closed it. Sometimes there's no point defending yourself to someone who's already decided you're fragile. Have you ever felt unwanted in your own family? If you have, tell me where you're watching from, so I know I'm not alone. Lydia folded her arms. Officer Ryan was here last week, remember? He said he saw you hesitate at that stop sign. I frowned. He was just checking on me. That's what neighbors do. It doesn't matter, she said. I talked to him again. He agrees stopping driving might be best. Her words stung like cold air against an open wound. Why would Officer Ryan say that? He was always kind, always asking after my health, always offering to bring my groceries up the porch steps. Something was wrong. Something was off. Lydia's tone, her urgency, it didn't feel like concern. It felt like pressure. Dinner was quiet. Too quiet. The type of quiet where every spoon tap on the plate feels like a decision being made in someone else's mind. After they left, I sat alone in the dim kitchen. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound. I glanced at the small corkboard on the wall, pictures from when Lydia was little. Messy pigtails, missing teeth, arm wrapped around my neck. There was love in those photos. So much love that it hurt to look at them now. I whispered to myself, when did I become an inconvenience? Maybe you understand that quiet heartbreak, the kind that doesn't make noise but aches deep. If this moment breaks your heart too, just hit like so she knows she's not forgotten. Later that night, while folding blankets in the attic, the place that had slowly become my temporary room, I heard a sound, a soft vibration, a phone buzzing. Lydia's old phone, the one she always forgot to erase before tossing in storage. It lit up with a message preview. Did she sign the papers yet? My stomach dropped. Another message came seconds later. We need her license suspended before we move forward. My breath caught in my throat. Papers? License suspended? Move forward with what? I felt the attic tilt, my pulse hammering in my ears. It wasn't about my safety. It wasn't about my driving. Something else was going on. Something they didn't want me to know. I picked up the phone slowly, my hands trembling. The full conversation thread was still open. Names, dates, suggestions, and a familiar one. Officer Ryan Calder. Why was his name in this? Why was he involved? I turned toward the attic window. Outside, the street looked calm, moonlit, innocent. But the truth was shifting under my feet, threatening to pull me under. I whispered, "What are they planning?" Downstairs, the front door clicked open. Footsteps. Lydia's voice. Mom, are you up there? I need to talk to you about something important tomorrow. Something we already started. Already started. A chill ran through me. What had they already done? And why did it involve a police officer I thought I could trust? I hardly slept after finding those messages on Lydia's old phone. Every time I closed my eyes, the words flashed again. We need her license suspended before we move forward. Morning came quietly, the light creeping through the thin attic curtains. I sat on the edge of my small bed, wrapped in the old quilt I'd sewn when Lydia was pregnant with Emma. Back then, I was needed, wanted, a constant part of their lives. Now I felt like a guest in my own daughter's world. As I made my way downstairs, I passed the wall of photographs. Lydia at her 5th grade spelling bee, Lydia at prom, Lydia holding Emma for the first time. I remember the early mornings I used to pack her lunches, the nights I worked overtime so she wouldn't feel the weight of my struggles. Raising her alone after her father passed wasn't easy. I used to walk to work so she could have the car. I used to skip dinners so she wouldn't see how tight money was. But I never complained. Love never complains. Maybe that was my mistake. I walked into the kitchen, and the sunlight hit the small wooden table where we used to sit every Saturday, sharing pancakes and stories. Lydia would chatter about school and friends. I'd pretend not to worry about the bills piling up, but even then, there were hints, tiny shadows I ignored. Moments when her eyes hardened, when she blamed me for working too much or not having enough. I brushed them away because mothers do that. They smooth over the sharp edges of their children. A soft knock came at the back door. It was Mrs. Harper, my next-door neighbor, white hair in a messy bun, warm smile, hands full of muffins she'd baked just because. She stepped inside without waiting. You look tired, Evelyn. Something on your mind? I hesitated. Just life. Mrs. Harper placed a warm hand on mine. You're not alone. Don't forget that. Her kindness cracked something inside me. I swallowed hard. If you've ever given everything to your family and still felt invisible, write your name in the comments so I know you exist. After she left, the house felt heavier. I wandered into the living room and sat in my old rocking chair. It creaked softly, the same sound it made when I held Lydia during her fevers. I closed my eyes and drifted into a memory, one I hadn't visited in years. It was Lydia's 16th birthday. I'd saved for months to buy her a used car. Nothing fancy, just something safe. When she saw it, she didn't hug me. She cried, not from joy, but embarrassment. It's old, she whispered. Everyone else has better. I remember sitting alone that night, trying to swallow the hurt. I thought she'd grow out of it. She never did. A buzzing sound snapped me back. Lydia's current phone, left on the counter, lit up with a notification. A name appeared, Ryan Calder. My chest tightened. The same police officer she said was concerned about my driving. The same name I saw in the attic messages. I shouldn't have looked, but my fingers reached for it before my mind could stop them. A new message preview flashed. Everything is ready. She won't be able to drive after tomorrow. Just make sure she signs. My breath hitched. Signs what? What were they doing? The betrayal settled into my bones, cold and familiar. Too similar to the night my late husband told me he was leaving, long before his accident. Different person, same sting. People you love can hurt you without raising their voice. I heard the front door open. Lydia walked in, hair perfect, expression unreadable. Mom, we need to talk. She sat across from me, hands folded, voice carefully sweet. Some paperwork came in, just insurance things, nothing major. Her eyes didn't match her tone. Something flickered there. Urgency, maybe guilt. I'll need your signature later, she added, avoiding my gaze. My heart sank. There it was. The papers I wasn't supposed to know about. I nodded slowly. What's it for? She smiled too quickly. Just routine updates. My hands trembled under the table. I wanted to ask about the messages, about Officer Ryan, about her plan to suspend my license. But the words stuck in my throat. Sometimes silence is the only defense we have when the truth is still forming. Sometimes the ones we love most are the ones who break us. Comment true, if you understand that pain. Lydia stood and stretched. I'll be back in an hour. Don't leave the house, okay? She left before I could respond. The moment the door closed, I hurried upstairs. Something told me not to wait, not to trust. I opened the small lockbox where I kept old documents, birth certificates, my husband's letters, financial statements. My hands froze when I saw a new envelope tucked behind the others, one I hadn't placed there. I opened it with shaking fingers. Inside was a printed form with my name, a driving competency petition, a request for the state to revoke my license due to unsafe behavior, filed by Lydia Bennett, filed 2 weeks ago. My knees weakened. I sat on the floor, breathing shallowly. She'd already started the process. She'd lied to me. She'd used a police officer to push it through faster. My daughter, my only child. The attic phone buzzed again, somewhere behind me. Another message preview glowed faintly. Meet tonight. She won't suspect anything. My heart thudded. Meet who? For what? Lydia said she needed my signature today. For insurance. She said not to leave the house. And Officer Ryan? Why was he helping her? I rose slowly, my hands clutching the papers like a lifeline. The house felt smaller. The walls were listening. My voice trembled as I whispered into the empty room. What are they planning for tonight? The living room was unnaturally quiet. Lydia had gathered me, Officer Ryan, and a woman I'd never met before, some kind of legal advisor, judging by the file in her hands. The curtains were half drawn, letting a muted afternoon light spill across the floor. Dust floated in the air, slow and heavy, as if even time hesitated to move forward. Lydia stood with her arms crossed, jaw tight. Mom, she said, her voice too controlled, we just need to clear a few things. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I sat in the armchair, papers hidden in my lap. The driving petition, the messages, the proof. Officer Ryan shifted nervously beside her. He wasn't wearing his uniform, just jeans and a gray shirt. But his badge hung at his belt, glimmering faintly. His eyes avoided mine. Let's get this over with, Lydia muttered, glancing at him as if rehearsing something they'd planned. The legal woman opened her file. Mrs. Hale, we need your signature on these documents. It's a simple transfer of liability and driving restrictions. All routine. My heart hammered. For a moment, no one spoke. Only the soft ticking of Emma's old wall clock filled the silence. Lydia stepped forward. Mom, please, just sign so we can move on. I raised my eyes slowly. Move on from what, Lydia? Her lips twitched. You know, things have been difficult. You're getting older. You forget things. She forced a laugh. It's for your safety. Ryan looked at the floor. I took a breath, shaky, nervous. Is that why you filed a petition to revoke my license 2 weeks ago? Her face froze. The advisor blinked. Ryan stiffened. I pulled the petition from my lap and placed it on the coffee table. The sound echoed like a gavel. Lydia's voice cracked. Where did you— Mom, you're misunderstanding. Am I? I whispered. My voice wasn't loud, but it was steady. The kind of steady a mother learns after years of swallowing pain. The advisor leaned forward. You already saw the documents? Not these, I said. The ones on your phone, Lydia. Her eyes widened. Ryan swallowed hard. I wasn't meant to see them, I continued, but God has a way of showing the truth when it needs to be seen. Long pause. Heavy silence. I added, "You told him," I pointed at Ryan, "that I was unsafe, that I needed to be evaluated, that I shouldn't drive anymore." Lydia stepped back. "Mom, please, you're being dramatic." "No." My voice trembled. "You told him to push the process through before I found out. You told him it was part of the plan." My throat tightened. "What plan, Lydia?" Ryan lifted his head. His face was pale. "I think she should know." Lydia's head snapped toward him. "Ryan, don't." He rubbed his forehead. "I didn't sign up for this." The advisor looked confused. "What exactly is happening here?" Ryan exhaled shakily. "She didn't want her mother driving because—" He hesitated. "Because she's trying to sell the house." My chest cracked. "Sell my home?" The advisor's jaw dropped. "Without her consent?" Lydia's voice rose, not in a scream, but in a desperate, strangled whisper. "She's old. She doesn't need this house anymore. We need the money, Ryan. You said—" "I said I'd help with the driving evaluation," he cut in. "Not help you evict your own mother." Gasps. Even the legal advisor looked horrified. I stared at my daughter, the child I raised alone, the girl whose scraped knees I bandaged, whose hands I held during nightmares. Now she stood in front of me, breathing hard, eyes wild with something I didn't recognize. "Lydia," I whispered. "Why?" Her chin quivered. "Because I can't afford my life anymore. Because everything is on me. Emma's school, the bills, the mortgage you left me." "The mortgage I helped you pay," I reminded softly. She faltered. "Have you ever spoken the truth and still been blamed?" I added quietly, turning a little toward the invisible audience of mothers and grandmothers. "Write your age in the comments if that pain feels familiar." Lydia collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. "You don't understand. I'm drowning." "And you thought drowning me would help you breathe?" I whispered. Her shoulders shook. The advisor cleared her throat. "Mrs. Hale, there's something else." She pulled out another document from her folder. "Your daughter asked us to prepare a property transfer authorization." My heart stopped. Lydia looked up, panic in her eyes. "No, don't show her." But the advisor continued, voice trembling. "This would have removed your ownership of the house entirely." Even Ryan gasped. "Lydia, you said she agreed to that." I thought I could convince her," Lydia whispered. Silence hit the room like thunder. A mother's betrayal isn't loud. It's slow, heavy. It sinks into your bones. My hand shook as I reached into my sweater pocket and pulled out something I hadn't planned to show yet, an old envelope. Yellowed edges, my late husband's handwriting. "Your father left this," I said quietly. "A clause in our will." I opened it gently. Slow piano seemed to hum in the background. "The house cannot be sold until I pass. And even after that, it belongs to Emma." Lydia's breath hitched. "What?" "You heard me." Ryan's voice was barely a whisper. She never told me that." Lydia looked ready to collapse. I wiped a tear that escaped despite my strength. "You wanted to take my home, Lydia, but it was never yours to take." The advisor stood. "Mrs. Hale, for your safety, we can proceed legally." "No," I said softly. "I want the truth to be spoken first." I faced my daughter. All I ever wanted was to be loved, not used. Lydia crumpled, sobbing. "Mom, I'm sorry." I looked away, staring at the family photograph on the wall. Me, her, little Emma. A memory now stained by truth. The final revelation came from Ryan, his voice small. "Mrs. Hale, there's one more thing she didn't tell you." He hesitated, then forced the words out. "She asked me to file a mental competency request, to declare you unfit to make decisions." The advisor gasped. I felt the room tilt. Lydia covered her face. I whispered, "You wanted to erase me." The softest silence followed, heavy, final. And then, with trembling voice, I asked the question that cracked the air. Lydia, if I hadn't found out today, what would you have done to your own mother tonight? Silence after the final revelation. A heavy silence filled the small courtroom the moment I walked in. My cane tapped softly against the polished floor, echoing louder than the whispers around me. Everyone's eyes shifted toward me, some with pity, others with curiosity. But I kept my chin lifted. After everything, dignity was the only thing I never let anyone take from me. Lily sat at the defendant's table, her arms wrapped tightly around herself, avoiding my gaze. Her husband, Trevor, whispered frantically into her ear, but she looked pale, uneasy, as if she knew the truth could no longer be buried. The judge glanced at the file in front of him. We are here regarding the incident involving Mrs. Eleanor Brooks and the claim that she is unfit to drive. New evidence has been submitted. Officer Daniel Reeves, please approach. Officer Daniel, the one who stopped me that day, the one who leaned close and whispered, Ma'am, your daughter called us, and she didn't do it to keep you safe, stepped forward. His uniform was crisp, but the look in his eyes was warm and steady. He greeted the courtroom. Your Honor, when I pulled Mrs. Brooks over, I expected to find a confused or unsafe driver. But she was alert, stable, fully in control. He paused, then looked directly at Lily. The call wasn't about safety. It was about setting her up. A murmur broke through the room. Lily's shoulders stiffened. Trevor jumped in. That's not true. You can't accuse my wife of something like... The judge raised a hand. You will speak only when asked. Trevor shrank back. Daniel continued. I found this voicemail during routine record review. He pulled out his phone, plugged it into the speaker, and pressed play. Lily's voice filled the room, cold and calculated. Just pull her over and say she's a danger. After this, we can finally stop her from driving and move her into the back room. She doesn't need independence at her age. Gasps. Sharp inhales. A few heads turned in disgust. My heart clenched, but I stayed still. My hands trembled slightly, but only for a moment. After all, the truth, no matter how painful, brings clarity. Lily covered her face. I didn't mean it like that. Mom, I was just stressed. I wasn't trying to... Her voice cracked, but not from remorse, only fear of being exposed. Mrs. Brooks, please take the stand, the judge said. I stood slowly. Every step felt like walking through memories. Birthday parties I planned for her, nights I held her during storms, sacrifices I never spoke of. And now this. My daughter, I began softly, wanted me off the road, not because I was unsafe, but because she thought I was inconvenient. The courtroom leaned into the silence. I have lived 74 years, I continued, my voice steady, and I've learned that the cruelest betrayals don't come from enemies. They come from the children you raised to be kind. Lily sobbed harder, but still didn't look up. My license is not what hurts me, I said. It's the idea that the person I gave everything to wanted to take the last pieces of my independence. The judge nodded gently. Thank you, Mrs. Brooks. You may sit. Next, my neighbor Olivia was called up. Sweet, gentle Olivia, who had seen too much from next door. She testified, I overheard them talking the night before the incident. Trevor said, once she can't drive, she'll depend on us for everything. Then we'll decide what to do with the house next. The room erupted in shocked whispers again. Trevor went pale. Documents followed, emails between Trevor and a realtor asking about selling my home once the elder situation is handled. Then came the final piece. Lily had filed an early petition to gain control over my finances without telling me. One lie after another collapsed in front of everyone. The judge's voice cut through the tension. I am ruling in favor of Mrs. Brooks. Her license will remain intact. Furthermore, the petition for financial control is denied. Mrs. Brooks is to retain full independence. A soft gasp left my lips. Relief, mixed with sadness. The judge turned toward Lily and Trevor. Your actions show manipulation and intent to exploit. You should be ashamed. They bowed their heads, unable to meet the eyes staring at them from every bench. As I stepped out of the courtroom, Olivia slipped her arm through mine. Eleanor, I'm so glad the truth came out. A few strangers nodded at me with gentle respect. One woman whispered, "You didn't deserve that." And yet, as I paused at the courthouse door, the weight of everything pressed on me. Justice was done, but my heart still felt cracked. Have you ever won a battle but lost something deeper? If you understand that feeling, comment true. Outside, the sun warmed my face. Officer Daniel approached. "You're free now, ma'am," he said kindly. I nodded, but the ache didn't fade. Because even when the world chooses your side, a mother still wonders, was victory worth the price of losing her own daughter? 3 months passed. The seasons changed, the leaves turned gold, and Eleanor Brooks found herself breathing easier in a house that finally felt like her own again. Mornings were quieter now, not because of loneliness, but because peace has its own gentle silence. She would open the curtains slowly, letting the sun fall across her living room, warming the wooden floors that once echoed with tension. She had planted marigolds outside her porch. Their bright orange petals danced in the wind, a small reminder that even after storms, something beautiful can grow. Her hands, once trembling from fear and humiliation, now held gardening shears with steady strength. Every snip felt like reclaiming a piece of her life. Her car, the old blue sedan she'd fought so hard to keep, sat proudly in the driveway. Clean, polished, ready. She didn't drive much anymore, but she drove when she wanted to, on her terms. That mattered. Eleanor walked back inside and paused by the hallway shelf. A small frame stood there, a faded photograph of Lily as a little girl, missing a front tooth, smiling up at her mother like she hung the moon. Eleanor's eyes softened. "Some things change," she whispered, "and some memories stay untouched." She touched the frame lightly, then sighed. Healing hadn't been easy. There were nights she cried herself to sleep, not because of losing her daughter's trust, but because she lost the version of Lily she thought she knew. Pain like that takes time to untangle. But Eleanor had learned to sit with her grief instead of fighting it, to make tea, wrap a blanket around herself, and let the quiet do its work. She wrote in a journal every evening, some pages shaky with hurt, others filled with courage she didn't know she still carried. One entry read, "Dignity is a seed. Betrayal may bury it, but it will always find a way back to the sun." Outside, she heard footsteps. Olivia Carter, the neighbor who had unknowingly saved her, appeared at the gate holding a plate of warm lemon bars. "Made too many," she smiled. "Thought you might like some." Eleanor welcomed her inside, grateful for company that didn't come with hidden intentions. They talked about flowers, the weather, and a documentary they both loved. Small, ordinary conversations, the kind that soothe old wounds more than grand apologies ever could. Sometimes Trevor Brooks stopped by too, quietly, respectfully, still ashamed of his silence during the trial. He helped fix her mailbox one afternoon. Another day, he mowed her lawn without saying much. Eleanor saw the guilt in his eyes, but she didn't hold it against him. Everyone fights their battles differently, she had learned. And Lily had kept her distance. 2 short messages, a birthday card, nothing more. Eleanor didn't force anything. She knew healing takes 2 hearts willing to try, and right now, only one heart was ready. One cool evening, Officer Daniel Reeves stopped by during his patrol. Just checking in, he'd said with a small smile. Eleanor offered him tea at the porch table. As they talked, he told her something that stayed with her long after he left. Strength isn't about how loud you are. It's about how you stand when no one's standing with you. That night, Eleanor wrote those words in her journal. She looked around her quiet, warm living room. Soft lamps, a crocheted blanket over the couch, the faint scent of vanilla from the candle she'd lit. This was her world now. Peaceful, earned, deserved. She walked to the window, watching the sky fade from blue to peach. If you've ever healed after heartbreak, she murmured softly, just like this video so I know I'm not alone. Her voice trembled, but with warmth this time, not pain. A moment later, she added, and if you've ever had to stand alone and rebuild, comment strong. We're more alike than we think. Eleanor sat down in her favorite armchair, the one with a floral cushion she'd restitched herself, and picked up an old letter from her late husband. His handwriting looped neatly across the page. Take care of your heart, Ellie. It's stronger than you think. Tears welled up, but they weren't sad tears. They were soft, grateful ones. She folded the letter carefully and placed it back in its envelope. Then she made herself a cup of chamomile tea, opened the window a little, and let the evening breeze drift in. In that moment, she realized something important. The real inheritance she wanted to leave behind wasn't money, cars, or property. It was love, kindness, strength, values that didn't rust or break or disappear. She whispered to herself, grandmas deserve respect and love. Share this so everyone remembers that. Later that night, as she turned off the lamp, she looked at Lily's childhood picture again. Her heart didn't ache the way it used to. There was still sadness, yes, but it had softened into something gentler, something human. Sometimes, Eleanor breathed, even after betrayal, love still finds a way. She closed her eyes, letting the quiet wrap around her, and one last question lingered in the air, fragile and hopeful. What would you do if life gave you a second chance to reclaim peace?